Hello guys, it's quite sometimes not showing up myself. Today I'm going to share one thing that why people who are in bad luck is difficult to move on. Now lately I have received some inquiries from new clients. All of these new clients have the same thing in common. That is, they put the blame on fate. They all tell me one same thing, which is that they are in a very bad situation at the moment with no luck at all. And I always give response like, really? For me, the only scary situation for anyone is just life and death. There is really nothing we can do when we are about to die. As a professional remedies provider, the most we can do is extend their lifespan a tiny bit, but still not as long as like 10 years. In case you are first time heard about this magic, I can assure to you that expanding one lifespan is not mysterious part. We are not doctor, but we can manipulate the surrounding to extend a person's life. I'll talk about how we are using Wunwangguo to extend a person's life next time. So that is not the only big problem. If someone is jailed, it's still not a big deal in my opinion. We only need to understand one thing. We can use our body to borrow whatever matter that is around us, as long as we can continue our existence. And of course, it takes skill to be able to successfully manipulate fate into the destination we want. A really high skill, which is impossible to get through an internet search. If you don't believe it, you can spend your whole life trying to find relevant information. I can vouch for this, not possible. Because we rather let this knowledge vanish than be used by people who are not worthy. Anyway, another huge topic. So yeah, people come to us when they face life problems. And as a fortune teller's job, of course, is to interpret the future for them. But it is not mine. My job is to read beyond the future. As I always said, the future is just a specific point of time, and the fortune teller just read from that specific timing, a time that will kick off an event. It will happen, but we can make it not happen. One of the popular topic in fortune telling is our destiny determined? My answer is yes and no. Now I know this kind of doesn't give any answers. When I say it can be, it simply means how you treat your future reading. And how you treat your future reading is largely up to the person who do the reading of your future. And what I'm talking about, the person who do the future reading is not limited to only any outsiders. It could be including you or who just learning to read the future. And the key point here is, if one does not have the ability to read out the key destinations, then your fate is basically doomed. In my many years of working in this field, I've never seen anyone actively in public who knew how to read the crux of every question. So, if we read any futures without knowing the keys, what has read will then be true. I mean, of course, those who can read them accurately. So in order to make your fate undecided, finding critical part inside the reading is the only way. Another same commonality emerged from all those desperate clients. They have analyzed all possibilities to solve better problems. Now, most of my clients came from senior management like general managers, CEOs, etc. This is why they have kind of basic sense of strategic analysis rather than simply relying on feeling analysis, or what people like to call intuitive analysis. So in their view, they often underestimated how the Wunwangguo could help them. In the end, most of this group ended up with scam. Let me explain more from here. Now you see, many people cannot get what they need in life for a period of time. They will start thinking about only one thing. Am I cursed by fate? And when the people around them told them they were out of luck, they will assume that everything they do depends on luck. So they will start praying hard. Some Chinese will even become vegetarians and pray to God every day. But after doing this for a while, their lives still haven't improved. So guess what happened next? They will again blame prayer for being useless. Of course, it is useless. If prayer is the solution, then there will be no adversity for human beings as long as they pray hard and become vegetarian. So wake up, people. We need to understand that prayer is not a key of turning ourselves into good luck. But that doesn't mean a prayer is useless. In order to learn this, we must get to the bottom of the problem. But learning to distinguish the crux of the matter is not easy. It often looks simple to find out the bottom, but people tend to misinterpret the bottom is actually still the surface. Now, many Chinese metaphysics or whatever teaching available in the market cannot lead any students to that level. And what worse is, it can be super complicated and lead to more problems if people try to manipulate faith with their limited of knowledge. Always remember this. Learning Chinese metaphysics is nothing simple. It is not exaggerated to say that it is another doctorate degree. I can assure that only a very few gurus master the core knowledge in this world. Anyway, I'll explain all of them in my masterclass. However, my ultimate masterclass is very expensive and cannot be afforded by those who want to learn at low cost. Now let's get back to our topic. So do you see the problem? You will see how the unlucky people make themselves worse. When people blame fate for all their misfortune, they can easily fall into quackery. Sooner or later, even without any divination, we can easily foresee what will happen to them. They will start looking for amulets or other things, what the Chinese call lucky opening items. This is the time when they get scammed. Once they realize it is a scam, Chinese metaphysics is again the one to criticize. People will magnify the negative news and warn others about how deceptive a divination is, or divination is unscientific and should not be trusted. So a superstition came from this. And Chinese metaphysics is implicated for such an unreasonable reasons. This is all about one thing that people always see them wrongly. That they thought they have tried everything and by right, they should succeed after so many trial and error. If it doesn't work, it is fate. Well, this is too arbitrary. Before we can conclude that this is destiny, we must admit that not everything we think and do has fully covered. Many times what we think is right is actually a wrong perception. For example, as I explained just now, if we become vegetarian and pray to God, we will have a better luck. This is to blame the luck on the gods. It is already a superstition. Put it this way, if someone prays to God for a job and they did nothing trying hard to find a job, do you think they will get a job? Or let's say they have been trying to find a financing job, but their resume has no background with finance at all. Even though they have tried many financing job applications, do you think the company will hire them? So the right direction is the key. Now, how can we find the key? Of course, by divination. But make divination for the sake of divination won't help. If you are a student of my Wulangkwa Masterclass, you should understand why I say this. Just like predicting the future in which someone will be involved in a fatal accident. So what next after the reading? Let them face their fate, and we celebrate our accuracy by posting it to Facebook. If we don't understand what next for fatal prediction, it just means we don't fully understand what divination is. At least with my years of experience in this field, most people realize the real problem only after divination. Not that divination is anything superb, but that divination is just a tool that is always stay neutral. Of course, divination can also be biased, and when the divination results are biased, it is only because the reader has injected personal bias when reading the results. It is a bit like the concept of Tao Gua. You can read my blog to know what is Tao Gua. If a person is good at Tao Gua, then they seem to be good at reading. But be careful, it is a trap. It is only the part of the surface. If you make them not read with Tao Gua, they are really nothing. They quickly become someone that tells you, nah, divination is only accurate at 70%. Another misleading statement. Not long ago, I saw a master interpret Tui Pei Tu, ancient Chinese prophecy, and posted it on Facebook. Let's not discuss the right and wrong interpretation for the time being, just looking at the interpretation method. We already know that it is doing Tao Gua. This set of action will only lead to a very wrong divination directions. So you see here, lots of people, not just the person who come to ask question, but also the readers, they take the problem superficially. When we can only focus on the surface, the problem will certainly not be effective solved. Eventually, the asker will think that the fortune teller is invalid. Solving problem is the core that every consultant should have. Now, I'll share more about this next time.